Every second, millions of invisible particles fly through your body. They're called neutrinos, ghost particles. And you're seeing them, without ever noticing. They're created by stars, nuclear reactions, and the Big Bang itself. They're called ghost particles because they pass through almost all matter like it's not even there. It takes a very special circumstance to get a neutrino to interact with anything at all. So we know they exist because of the tiny ripples they leave behind after they collide with other particles. But if you weren't looking for those ripples, you wouldn't know they were there. Your eyes can see neutrinos, specifically with a type of photoreceptor called rods, which contain a protein called rhodopsin. Now, thanks to this discovery, we know that at least some of the time when you look at something, you're also seeing ghost particles. In 2017, physicists reported an experiment that showed single molecules of rhodopsin could be triggered by single quantum particles like neutrinos. They stream from distant supernova, closer exploding stars, our sun, nuclear reactors, and even the Earth's crust. They come in 3 flavors: electron, mu, and tau. That's because your nervous system filters out background noise, so you can focus on things that might actually be worth paying attention to. Like that bag of leaves outside your window, or the fact that your eyelids are getting droopy. You blink, and suddenly your brain is paying attention again. If it's absorbed, the photon bounces around inside the object until it bumps into something that lets it escape, at which point it gets re-radiated in a different direction. Instead, it bumps into a water molecule and transfers some energy before continuing on its way. The water molecule absorbs the energy and eventually releases it as visible light. This process is called Cherenkov radiation. The same thing that causes the blue glow you see behind a boat on the surface of the water. If it gets re-radiated in the same direction it came from, you see a bounce. But when a neutrino hits a water molecule in your eye, it can trigger a photoreceptor cell. Think of your visual cortex like a video game. There's a main character, and everything else is part of the environment. But sometimes glitches happen in the game, and weird things appear on the screen. Maybe a tree pops into existence or a rock flies through the air. These glitches don't stop the game from running smoothly, just become part of the environment, and the main character interacts with them naturally. The flash of light generated by the neutrino passes through several layers of cells before reaching the optic nerve, which sends signals to your brain. It just incorporates the ghost particle into whatever you're looking at. Subscribe and we'll show you what's hidden. You could say neutrinos are like a kind of visual white noise. They're always there, but you only notice them when nothing else is going on. Its wavelengths are too short to be visible. But the water molecules in your eye absorb the extra energy and re-radiate it as longer wavelengths, which means you can see it. Or maybe you've been listening to the same song for years, but this time you finally hear the background vocals. That's because the music was playing on a speaker, not through your earbuds. And now you're hearing frequencies you didn't notice before. If it gets bounced in a different direction, you see a flash. That's basically how light works. Suddenly you're paying attention to the whole world in a new way. Every second, millions of neutrinos rush through your body, passing through your eyes and interacting with water molecules. Your eyes are windows to a silent storm of particles. Sometimes they trigger photoreceptors, creating flashes of light that tell your brain there's a bug on your windshield or a UFO in the sky. You don't notice neutrinos most of the time, but they're always there. Most of the time you do unnotice neutrinos because your brain is filtering them out, along with all the other background noise. But that doesn't mean they're not there. But the fact remains, you're getting a steady stream of neutrinos coming from every direction, especially from above, because the atmosphere blocks most of them. You don't notice all the cars driving past you, but if someone yells, "Hey, look, a car," you notice it immediately. The same way your brain only pays attention to the neutrino that triggers a response in your photoreceptor cells. Red light has the longest wavelength, and violet has the shortest. Light waves can also act like particles called photons. One photon equals one wave. This dual nature of light is called wave-particle duality, one of the cornerstones of quantum mechanics. If you could see at that scale, your eyes would look like portals to another dimension, rippling with activity every time you blinked. At any given moment, millions of flashes are happening inside your head, but you don't see any of them. Luckily, those neutrinos don't mess with your vision. Even if they did, you wouldn't know because your brain filters out anything that doesn't change over time. But scientists do know that neutrinos have some mass, however tiny, which makes them feel weightless. First, let's take a quick detour through the physics of light. Now, fortunately, this doesn't happen to be a big deal. When neutrinos hit your neurons, they just pass right through. It's only when they run into your photoreceptors that they could have any noticeable effect. We don't know exactly how massive they are. It's one of the biggest questions in particle physics. Neutrinos could hold clues about dark matter, why there's more antimatter in space than matter, and how to unify gravity with quantum mechanics. They are born in the most extreme environments, but they travel so easily they could sneak into any old atom. They're like the ultimate spies. Others shoot beams of neutrinos at miles-long basements. To find out where they go, it's taken monumental efforts to capture these particles and study them. They're everywhere. And yes, they're passing through you right now. About 100 trillion of them go through your body every second. And some of those particles are flying right through your eyeballs. If you want to see what's invisible, hit subscribe. The science stream reveals what hides in plain sight. Neutrinos are one of the most abundant particles in the universe. Neutrinos don't bounce off anything. Neutrinos aren't just small and sneaky. They're also weird. They have no electric charge. Neutrinos move so fast, they'd circle the Earth almost 7 million times in a second. But they're so hard to spot, researchers had to build giant detectors deep underground or hidden away in abandoned salt mines to block out cosmic rays. But this is where the story gets really strange. As it turns out, you don't need any of that equipment to detect neutrinos. You just need eyes. You heard that right. Are particles smaller than neutrinos? But the chance of a neutrino triggering one of these molecules is so low, it was previously out of the question. And here's the thing. Your body is constantly bombarded with neutrinos, but you don't notice them. But during those few milliseconds, when your brain isn't paying attention, neutrinos are flying through your head. In fact, when neutrinos enter your eye, they probably interact with water molecules, leaving behind a kind of subatomic splash. So how do you get from ghost particles to what you're actually seeing? Here's where things get a little more complicated. Light waves move at 300,000 kilometers per second. Visible light has wavelengths between 380 and 750 nanometers. Each wavelength corresponds to a different color. When light hits an object, it can be reflected, transmitted, or absorbed. So when a neutrino enters your eye, it doesn't interact directly with anything. Neutrinos are moving so fast, the Cherenkov radiation they create is invisible to the human eye. Now, the only reason you can see it is because your brain told your eyes to pay attention in the first place. Each time a neutrino hits your eye, it creates a tiny flash of light. Basically, your brain does a lot of work to make sure you can focus on things that matter. When a neutrino hits the right spot, you perceive it as a tiny dot of light, which is then interpreted by your brain as part of whatever you're looking at. In the same way, your brain doesn't stop working when a neutrino hits your eye. Maybe you've been staring at your phone for hours, and suddenly you notice a new icon on your home screen. The world is full of things you don't pay attention to. One scientist compared it to being on a busy street. That's why we only notice neutrinos when something else goes wrong. Like if a glitch in your visual cortex makes it seem like there's a bug on your windshield. You're walking through a cosmic river. There's more going on inside you than you can see.